Hello, football family. Welcome into Huddle It Up Films. Week 15, Ravens headed to New York or New Jersey to face the Giants. Ravens sitting at 8-5, Giants at 2-11. All the bye weeks are finished across the NFL. Ravens were among the last group of teams to get one. So we're ready for this stretch of 3 games within 10 or 11 days, depending on how you count it. Play on the 15th, play on the 11th, or excuse me, the 25th. Technically, that's 11 days, but a rough stretch starting with this game in New York against the Giants. Welcome everybody in, flying solo today, so I appreciate any support, any comments. We'll be bringing up all the comments we can today. As you see, the Giants 2-11 wins at Cleveland and at Seattle. That was way back in week 5. They have lost 8 straight games. They signed Daniel Jones to a 4-year, $160 million contract. Just last year, he has since been benched, released, cut. He's a backup quarterback in Minnesota now. They decided to replace him with Tommy DeVito. Tommy DeVito got hurt. They went to Drew Lock for 2 games. Now Drew Lock is in a walking boot. They're going back to Tommy DeVito. Just so many problems with this organization. And a lot of times when we play teams with bad records, especially, Ravens competitive every year, we talk about trap games. I don't even think that this is a trap game. Just spoiler for the matchup alert. I mean, I had problems even scouting this team. They've made double-digit transactions. I think 10 or 11 transactions within the last 2 days. That just shows you how beat up this New York Giants team is. Don't know who's playing. Don't know who's starting. The injury report coming up, you'll get to see it. But this is the scene in New York. This was the scene last Sunday. Look at the stadium. You have people with paper bags on their heads. That was the first quarter. But when I was studying the film, I just could not help but to notice all the empty seats. I was looking today. I think you can get seats there pretty close to the field for like $150. You can get in the stadium for $50. People will be selling their tickets. So if you want to take a trip up there to see the game, this would be the week to do it if the weather is good. But yeah, this Giants team is in turmoil. They had a plane fly over the stadium, telling them to clean up the dumpster fire. Just tough times. Another slide right here. The Giants have not thrown a touchdown pass in 38 days. Daniel Jones, their former quarterback, no longer on the team, was the one who threw it. So they're having a lot of problems, just scoring. Last week against the Saints, the Giants lost 14-11. It was a 30-some yard field goal. They were attempting to tie it. That field goal got blocked. Just kind of a microcosm for their season. But this Giants team is in total disarray, already looking ahead to 2025. They currently have the second overall pick. The Raiders also have 2 losses. So, you have the situation there in which fans, they're happy just mailing it in and getting as high of a pick as they can to try to restart. And they really need to redo this whole quarterback room. Drew Lock, probably not a very good, even for a backup quarterback. DeVito, and of course, they don't have Daniel Jones anymore. It wouldn't surprise me if the Giants double dipped in this draft. Say took a quarterback, of course, early with the first or second selection, and then took one, old Washington Redskins days, RG3, Kirk Cousins days type style approach to that. Just a rough situation in New York. Trying not to harp on it. This show, by the way, tonight, guys, I'm going to go ahead and try to focus on our team. This is what their injury report looks like. I mean, this is as bad as it gets. Side note, this is why I'm against expanding the season to 18 games or anymore. I mean, you have teams that look like this time of the season. There are already not enough good quarterbacks to fill up the NFL, although I think the quarterback play in 2024 is better than it was, say, 5 years ago. We have some replenished the quarterback class with some good talent coming out. But, I mean, look at this. Their best player, Dexter Lawrence, out for the year on IR. Their rookie second-round pick, Tyler Nubin, safety, he's on IR now, part of all those moves that they were making. Andrew Phillips, promising rookie third-round pick, he's on IR. Azeez Ojulari, one of their best players, edge player, he's on IR. Isaiah Simmons on IR, their rookie tight end, third-round pick. Yes, he is on IR too. So a ton of things going on in New York, and none of them are good. Got someone in the comments already. O'Dary, Alu. Uh, Sorry for butchering your name there, buddy. Football is family. Thank you so much. I appreciate the comment. Appreciate the people who are joining me. Not a lot of excitement for this game, so kind of interested to see how the viewership will go. But yeah, the injury report. So again, you have do not practice today. Drew Lock, Evan Neal, their tackle, Bobby Okereke, their starting inside linebacker, Andrew Phillips, and John Runyon, their left guard, who is not expected to play this week. Their coach Brian Dable, who's probably in trouble with his job security, said that John Runyon will be a couple of weeks, so not expecting him to play. We get to our next slide here. Wanted to bring this up. Switch over to the Ravens now, and this is going to be a very Ravens-centric show tonight. Not a lot to concentrate on with the Giants, but just wanted to show the production here from this Ravens offense and the Ravens receivers / tight end. Yards per target, important metric. That's the last column there. So it's just like yards per carry. It counts the incomplete passes thrown your way as a 0. And of course, it's not the same as yards per reception, which counts just your catches. This is yards per target. So every time Zay Flowers is targeted, he's been targeted 94 times, 863 yards on 60 catches. That averages out to 9.2 yards per target. Bateman, you can see sitting at 10.4. Andrews. Bateman and Andrews, you can see comfortably the plan there. Zay Flowers getting the most targets with 94. Bateman and Andrews about the same, sitting there at 55 and 51. Both extra efficient. Of course, Zay Flowers gets those screen passes, a lot of short stuff for Zay, but he also gets his downfield shot. You can see Bateman 10.4 yards per target, Andrews 9.6, likely 8.2. 7.3 yards per target is not a terrible season. Of course, small sample for Nelson Aguilar with only 28 targets. He's doing the worst. And of course, Colin Wallace, talk about small sample size, 9 catches on 9 targets, 183 yards. Of course, he had that long catch down the sideline against Cincinnati, highlight play. Charlie Kolar out for a few weeks with that broken arm, broken hand, whatever he's got going on. But just a lot of different weapons at Lamar Jackson's disposal. And I'm curious to see if you like this target distribution. Is this the way it should be? Is there anybody who should get involved more? Isaiah Likely stands out, and he's right there, 47 targets, right there with Andrews and Bateman. But, Zay's your main guy, and you got your 3 tertiary guys. So interested to see if you like the spread. Is there anybody you would like to see come up in targets or reduce their targets? I kind of like the way the passing game is going right now, and I like their target distribution. Kind of why it was always going to be interesting to see how Deontay Johnson got involved with this, because the guys you're looking at are so efficient. Who are you going to take targets away from to get Deontay Johnson involved? I'm not sure. Will Deontay Johnson play for the Ravens again? I don't know. It's looking more and more. I'm feeling more and more like I doubt that. Had a big discussion on Deontay Johnson, by the way, in our last live stream. Was a big collab. If you guys missed it, I would encourage you to go back and watch it. It's long. We had Ashley and Alec with us. We also had Ken McCusick from Film Study, Engraven, Yolanda B. from Ravens Talk with Yolanda, Sutton Def from the Purple Rain podcast. A great time in there. Thanks, Law. Good to see you. I'm glad you finally caught a live show. One of my favorite people to read the comments on the videos. Thanks, Law. Always appreciate you. And thanks for showing up today. Flying solo. It's a little uncomfortable, but we will make it through there, Banks. We will make it through. So let's get into the matchup here. Let's start out with the Ravens on offense. And the guys I have highlighted, pretty simple. Mark Andrews, I wanted to mention him because, after a relatively slow start, he's really come on, looking like, Lamar Jackson's main weapon once again in the red zone, leads the team in touchdown pass catches. He's actually 1 touchdown away from tying Jamal Lewis for on the Ravens all-time list, number 1 in team touchdowns. So it's just great to have Andrews back. I remember there was trade talks, and Lamar actually, or talk among fans about trading Andrews, giving Likely a bigger role. And Lamar made sure to bring that up in a press conference a couple of weeks ago before the bye, which I thought was pretty funny. Can you imagine being the guy, like, All right, hey, your job is to go tell Lamar that we're thinking about trading Mark Andrews, or we traded Mark Andrews. I would not want to be that guy. Lamar would not want that to happen. Never thought that was a realistic possibility. And now Andrews again, once again, becoming a big part of this offense. Banks saying Deontay can get some of Aguilar's targets. That's true. I mean, Aguilar hasn't been targeted a ton, but I think that overall he's a better player than Nelson Aguilar. And Deontay Johnson is a better player than Aguilar. I know our buddy Ken McCusick pointed to yards per target, kind of downplaying Deontay Johnson's effectiveness as a wide receiver. And I would just point to the quarterbacks that he played with, the Kenny Pickett's, Ben at the end of his career, Bryce Young out in Carolina, still feeling his way out. There's a lot that goes into your yards per target. The quarterback is a big part of it. I mean, you think Bateman and Zay Flowers would be sitting at their yards per target if they were playing with Kenny Pickett and Bryce Young? No. So your quarterback definitely has something to do with it. Although yards per target is a great metric, I think that there's room for him to get involved in this offense, and I think it's good to have Deontay Johnson just in case Zay Flowers were to go out. I mean, I don't know which game it was, but Zay got banged up in it, and he was on the field holding his ankle, and I just remember at that moment thinking, man, that would change the entire offense for the worse. And you never know when something like that has happened, and you want to be as deep at every position possible. So yeah, I have hopes that Deontay Johnson could still be a part of this team, but I have to admit I'm much more pessimistic than I was even last week, just sitting on it and thinking about it. Adari once again coming in against Pittsburgh. I think Deontay could take a couple snaps away from Aguilar. What you think? So yeah, it would be fitting to see Deontay play against Pittsburgh. And a lot of times when guys are signed from other teams, there's either a spoken or unspoken thing. I remember when Le'Veon Bell signed here, there was supposedly behind the scenes, and take it for what it's worth, but kind of an agreement that come the Pittsburgh game that we were going to get him involved a little bit more than regular. That was going to be his time to shine, get him some goal line touches and that kind of thing. So those types of things do happen on the professional level. Obviously, everybody's trying to win, but a big incentive for players to play against their former team does exist. And Banks Law, once again, coming in, me and all 22. Yeah, Coach DC, what a great person. Coach DC, excellent channel, was talking about Les Aguilar and more targets for the backside X. The backside X has been Bateman, and I thought it was interesting when Bateman went out of the game. Aguilar does play that backside X, by the way, Banks, but Tylan Wallace was the guy playing the backside X. So Deontay Johnson, I think part of what people don't realize, they asked him where he was training, how he planned on fitting into the offense, and he said he was training at Z and F. The Z and F is basically that's Zay's spot, and that's the slot receiver. So when Bateman went down, it doesn't mean, obviously Deontay refused to go in the game, but it didn't mean that he was going to have to go in as that X receiver. Zay has experience at X. Other receivers have experience at X. So he could have went in Zay's spot. But yeah, X receiver, definitely a specific skill set that they love for those guys because you're facing the right corner, which is generally the strongest corner on the other team. And of course, the free safety or the best safety usually plays on that side. So for the Giants, for example, Deontay Banks, former first-round pick, a player I liked a lot coming out. You see him highlighted for them at right cornerback. He was limited in practice today, not sure if he'll be ready for that game on Sunday. But if he does, that's a matchup I'm going to be watching against Rashad Bateman because it's a good player, a talented player. Banks, 6 foot tall, all the measurables you want. He's young in the league. Bateman's still relatively young in the league. Good matchup. I want to see what kind of separation Bateman could get against Deontay Banks. The Giants' best player now that Dexter Lawrence is hurt is Brian Burns. He leads that Giants team in sacks. I'm going to run the scroll across the bottom here. You can see the Giants sack leader. But Brian Burns, number 0, excellent player. I'm curious to see how much he lines up against Ronnie Stanley and how much they want to test the rookie Roger Rosengarten on that strong side. Roger really come along, and I think the best thing you can say for any tackle, especially a rookie, is that he's been very quiet. Not a lot of penalties from Rodgers. Stanley's been penalized. McCary, of course. Faalele. Not a lot of penalties for Roger Rosengarten. Not getting beat a lot and having to hold. Not giving up sacks. Not showing up on the TV screen in any kind of way. And, if you're a wide receiver, you want a lot of attention. You want to make a lot of plays. If you're an offensive lineman, the opposite. You don't want anybody talking about you. And nobody's really been talking about Roger Rosengarten, especially for the last month. I think his play, the number of times he's made my notes here, has just been unbelievable. Steady, 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 handling a lot of things one-on-one. He does get chip help now and again. We saw it again in the Pittsburgh game, chipping to TJ Watt. But you think about TJ Watt, you think about the Eagles' edge rushers. He's faced some good defenses this last 3 weeks and has held up really, really well. Shout out to Roger Rosengarten. Very, very proud of him. This Giants defense, again, I'm looking. It's Banks was supposed to be a starter at the beginning of the season. Burns was supposed to be a starter at the beginning of the season. Kayvon Thibodeaux at the other edge, another high draft pick. He was subbing in with Azeez Ojulari, who was out for the year, but he's kind of his starter for that team. Other than that, you have a lot of backups. You had guys making their NFL debut, practice squad players, and this Giants team only has 2 interceptions the entire season. One of them came last week against New Orleans, but 2 interceptions the entire season for this Giants team. That's why this week, I think it's just important to focus on us. Who do you want to see get involved? Who do you want to see have a great game? I think that this game is going to be a nice confidence booster for guys like McCary and Faalele. No excuses this week for those guys. Don't want to see any kind of penalties. I don't want to see any illegal man downfield. There's no reason to jump. There's no reason to hold. You should be a better player than the guy lined up that you're lined up against this week. So you shouldn't be getting beat off the snap. You don't need to be impatient and jump. Know the snap count. Keep your feet moving. Keep your technique right. And let's just play a clean game first and foremost. And it frustrates me with the holding penalties, especially because look at the guys in the backfield. Think about it. Lamar Jackson, probably the best at the NFL. I don't think that's controversial to say, at feeling the rush and avoiding sacks. Excuse me. So if you do get beat, as long as you're not getting the quarterback, beat so bad that you're getting the quarterback sag cut off, there's no reason for you to hold. Lamar can see somebody coming, avoid the rush with the very best of them, probably the best in the NFL, in my opinion. Sometimes it seems like he has eyes in the back of his head, not just when he's running with the ball, but in the pocket. And then Derrick Henry, again, you get beat. Do you want to take your chances with Derrick Henry making a guy miss that beat you? Or do you want to hold and put it in the hands of the referee? Nah, just look, if you miss a block on a run play, just accept it. Take the L, try to get a piece of him, but don't hold him and let Derrick Henry run through the guy. So when you got the talent in the Ravens backfield that we have, there's just no reason to be penalized, like I said, unless you're going to get your quarterback hurt. Just super frustrated. And against this Giants team, that's the number one thing that I'll be looking for. Obviously, you want to get out of there healthy. You want to win the game. But let's play a clean game. Clean game, no penalties on offense would make me a happy man. Banks wanted to bring up this talking point right here. Want to see Likely and Henry on third down. It's very interesting to me how specific the running backs' roles are. And that's part of the reason I think Keaton can't get involved, Banks. And I don't know if anybody out there will agree with this, but it seems like Justice's role is strictly on third down in 2 minutes. And they don't bring in him a lot to take a series or to take a first down rep. Of course, it happens occasionally. But it seems like Derrick Henry is the first second down back. Derrick Henry is the workhorse. Third down, 2-minute situations. That's Justice Hill. Third running back, not applicable. I mean, Rasheen Ali not getting a touch. Keaton Mitchell not getting touches. They actually deactivated Keaton Mitchell last game for Rasheen Ali. And when Harbaugh was asked about it, I thought that he could have been more direct. Obviously, I don't mind when my head coach is, elusive in his answers. But he basically could have said, look, man, we don't use a third down back, a third running back during the game. It's Henry, and then it's Justice Hill. We're trying to get Henry as many carries as we can. Justice has been outstanding in his role. So we just wanted Rasheen Ali to return kicks. That's why he was active. That to me seems like the most honest answer he could have given. So I'm wondering, does Keaton get involved in this offense? Are they going to slow play it with this, especially 3 games in 10 days? Would be a good time to get Keaton involved. I personally would like to see Keaton active this Sunday. Excuse me. Yeah, I would like to see Keaton get involved this Sunday because 3 games in 10 days. And this is going to go for guys like Ronnie Stanley, guys like Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, especially, even Lamar. I would love to see the Ravens take care of business, do what they have to do. You're looking at a Giants offense that is last in scoring by a good margin, um, just cannot score. So if it's, a 20-point lead against the Giants, that's like a 35-point lead against the top offense. So come midway through the third quarter, I would love to see the Ravens up by 3 touchdowns, and let's start using guys on offense. Let's start getting Bateman. If his knee was sore, get him out of the game. Let's see a lot of Tylan Wallace. Let's see a lot of Nelson Aguilar. Let's get Keaton in a rhythm. Let's get Josh Jones into the game. Ben Cleveland, you have him. You might as well use him. Obviously, we're not going to get our way. We're not going to have Ben Cleveland upgrade the offensive line, but let's get some guys off their feet in this game. That would be a great goal, especially on that New York turf. And boy, does it bother me that they have all that money. They have the Jets and the Giants, 2 New York teams playing on that field. You have, the salary cap is up over $200 million. You're talking about $500 million worth of player assets playing on a field that is the worst or among the worst in the NFL when it comes to getting players injured. Cannot stand it. Stacy checking in. Appreciate you, bro. I hope you're doing good. What's up, Jason? You are right. Well, I hope I'm going to be right some. Going to be wrong some, but hopefully I'm going to be right some in this episode since I'm flying solo here, not asking the questions. So I really appreciate you, Stace. Thanks for getting here and getting involved. And let's see what you have to say about Todd Monken. I hope Monken gets a head coaching job somewhere else after this season. I'm done with him. Stace, that's a little harsh, don't you think? What about Monken don't you like, Stacy? I would like you to follow up, comment, take your time, and do that. I'm guessing you're going to say not sticking with the run when we get behind. That's been my main bugaboo with him. But overall, like the way this offense has performed, and with Lamar getting more comfortable in the system, like Lamar is peak Lamar right now, I actually would like to see Monken stay. That's my opinion. Of course, I respect yours, Stace. You know that, but I'm always going to be honest. I think the more time Monken spends with Lamar, the better for Lamar, the better for Monken, the terminology and all that kind of stuff. O'Derry, hurtful to hear about Keaton role, but I understand from that perspective. Yeah, I mean, and ideally though, O'Derry, I would like to see Keaton get involved to take some load off of Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is among the league leaders. I didn't check before the game, but he was either first or second in the NFL with rushing attempts. He looks fresh. This bye week coming up is really going to help him. But any kind of wear and tear you can take off Derrick Henry, especially since it definitely looks like he's going to be on the team next year. He's a 2-year deal. Any kind of wear and tear you can take off of Derrick Henry is a good thing. So there's a balance between getting him the ball enough, but still resting him. But yeah, this would be a good game, Hodari. 3 games in 10 days. You got the Steelers coming up on Saturday after this game. I would love to see Keaton get a handful of carries and rest Henry and Justice Hill. Stacy saying, I would love to see you do a video of Faalele this season. And the follow-up comment. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I try to keep positive for the players out of respect for them. I've been thinking recently about starting either a Discord or forgetting the word for it, basically a pay for method where I will post videos like that, because the highlight videos are great, and it gives the players a lot of publicity. They work hard, respect the players, but no player is perfect, and I could sit there and pick on every guy on the screen, ways they could improve, but Faulele, Stacy, is just limited physically. It's it's not a technique thing with him. I think once he gets set, if he's in a good position, his pass protection is okay. But when you're asking him to get out of his stance and move laterally, either to pull or outside zone blocking or climbing to the second level, there's just physical limitations for being a man that's his size, almost 400 pounds. I believe he was the largest man ever drafted in the NFL. Um, you know, being a guard, quickness and anticipation has a lot to do with your success there. There are a lot of college tackles who can't transition to guard because they're not quick enough. And quickness is not a skill that Faalele possesses. I think it's amazing that he's held up this well. And of course, in this game against the Giants, expect Faalele to have a good game because we've seen him have good games against lesser talent. But when you match him up against Christian Wilkins, Keanu Benton from the Steelers, that's when it starts getting rough. So, yeah, I would love to see them make a change. I think in the offseason, it's important for the Ravens to grab a guard, and it would not hurt my feelings. I would like to see them grab one on day 2. For those of you who follow the draft, let me know what you think because day 2, you're getting a top interior offensive lineman. Round 1 is going to be filled with wide receivers, tackles, edge rushers, your high-paid positions. So a lot of times, like Linderbaum, for instance, very highly touted coming out of college. He was a late first-round pick. So you can get yourself a good guard, a very good guard, a top 3, 4, 5 guard in the draft in the second or third round. I would love to see the Ravens go ahead and do that and invest a higher pick in a guard. Probably take 2 guards in this draft. What I don't want to see is them picking a guard in the 5th round, 6th round, and filling out the roster and just hoping one of them hits. I think it's time to invest. Look at Ronnie Stanley and the careers he's had before injuries derailed him. Great player. Linderbaum, great player. Rosengarten, great pick, 2nd round pick. Look, if you want good players, you can't always get lucky in the mid rounds. Marshall Yanda, another day 2 pick. He was a 3rd rounder. Go ahead, get yourself a guard on day 2 in the draft, rounds 2 or 3, because I look at the line. Rosengarten will be here. Linderbaum will be here. Stanley is a free agent with a void year. So you're going to need to rebuild that guard room. McCary is a free agent after this year as well. Ben Cleveland is gone. There will be nothing there. You will have Faalele still, but nothing else there in the guard room. I don't want to take chances with converted tackles moving in the guard when you don't know what kind of guard they are. Give me a guard from a Power 5 school who's built like a guard. No more projects like Faalele or Ben Cleveland, these oversized guys. No more undersized guys like a McCary getting overpowered. Him going against Jordan Davis was rough. It was just looked physically impossible for someone of McCary's size to block Jordan Davis last week. Give me a regular sized guard, good old guard with guard tape from Power 5 school and draft him on the 2nd or 3rd round. That's what I would like to see. And Hodari, day 2 is a perfect fit. Is Dexter Lawrence not playing Sunday? Stacy, he is one of a ton of guys on the Giants who are on IR. Just to go over that list again, guys who are out this week: Drew Lock, the quarterback, Dexter Lawrence on IR, Andrew Phillips probably out, Isaiah Simmons, Azeez Ojulari on IR, Theo Johnson on IR. So yeah, Dexter Lawrence, the one guy on this team who could really, really give you problems. You pair him with Brian Burns, and the Giants' pass defense was actually pretty formidable. Up until the last, they played New Orleans last week, doesn't have a good passing attack. Derek Carr was hurt. So, basically their pass defense has taken a big beating without Dexter Lawrence, pushing the pocket in the middle like we've seen. I'm interested to see what people think about this. Hold up, do we resign Stanley immediately, right? It's going to be really interesting to see. His void year cap hit is, I believe, over $8 million. So that's what the Ravens are going to have to pay to Ronnie Stanley if he departs. I think you have to sign him to a contract that's more than that for that void year to be canceled out. If he signs somewhere else, you're still going to get hit with an 8 something cap hit. What do you think? Would you go out to re-sign Stanley? And What does he deserve? What kind of contract does he earn? And the story, we all know Stanley's story. He's rebounded. I think he's a borderline Pro Bowl type player this year. He's played well. You're looking at a top tackle getting his first contract, like say a young rookie first round tackle, and he hits free agency and he's out there, one of the best in the game. At this point, you're looking at a $25-30 million a year player. Ronnie Stanley, of course, is a little bit older, approaching 30, has that injury history. What does Ronnie Stanley command on the open market? Really interested to see that because I really don't know. Is Ronnie Stanley a $20 million a year guy? Does he have to take a shorter contract to prove it? With the Ravens and everything else is going on, do they plan on moving Roger Rosengarten to left tackle? In my opinion, Roger Rosengarten's skill set is more of a left tackle because what does a left tackle have to do more of, and what does a left tackle have to do less of? Left tackle has to be able to pass protect, number one. And, when you're talking about run blocking, a lot of the left tackle, it's move blocks. Your right tackle is asked to do a lot more mauling, especially in power schemes. So do you move Rosengarten over to left tackle because left tackles are so expensive and hard to find and get yourself a mauling right tackle? That might be their plan. I love it. Stacy coming back in. We should resign Stanley because KC would sign him. It's so funny. I had that discussion about Justin Tucker on the bye week show. If we cut Justin Tucker, the Chiefs would pick him up. You see them one on that doink last week again, and of course he'd be banging home 50-yarders for the Chiefs in the playoffs. It's so funny. It shouldn't enter your psyche, Stacy, but it just does, man. Banks flying in. Ravens have lost their identity as a physical team by not having physical O linemen stamped 100%. I think Tyler Linderbaum is a physical player. He's just undersized, so he's not a mauler. Faalele can't get out of his stance. He's not really a finisher. Rosengarten, another hard-nosed player, but just like Linderbaum, Rosengarten's a hustler. He's the first one to the pile. He's picking running backs and wide receivers off the pile. He's pushing the opponent off of their guys. Feisty player in Rosengarten, but not a power player. Would love to see the Ravens get back to having one of the nastiest O-lines in the NFL. I think that would just help Lamar so much. If Lamar has time, I think we could see another perfect passer rating. And you don't say that lightly, Banks, because it is darn near impossible to get a perfect passer rating. There's a reason Lamar is like tied for the NFL lead with only 5 of them in his career. Lamar, his 100th start this Sunday. So the man leads the NFL all time in perfect passer ratings, and he doesn't even have 100 starts under his belt. The Lamar Jackson experience. It's just crazy. And again, Hadari, I'm with you. I have no idea how much he's going to be worth, Ronnie Stanley. So I'm looking at this game and looking at the Giants defense. 6th in the NFL with 38 sacks. You see Dexter Lawrence on IR with 9. Brian Burns with 7. Azeez Ojulari out on IR with 6. And the Giants just have 2 interceptions this season. So the Giants have gotten to the quarterback, but that's fallen off since their injuries. The Giants are pretty good against the run. But again, I think that this is a game for Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, and I would love to see Keaton Mitchell get involved. He's done comeback. He's got broken in a little bit. Was inactive last week against Philadelphia. Now he has the bye week this week. You imagine that he's getting more and more comfortable. So I would say that this game would be a success if we start to see carries from Keaton Mitchell, catches from Tylan Wallace, Josh Jones at left tackle, all for the good reason of the Ravens blowing out the Giants. Banks, one last word on Ronnie Stanley. Tough one. But I would sign Stanley because I don't trust EDC to rebuild the O-line. And I mean, think about it, Banks. It's hard enough. I mean, look how well we've done with Roger Rosengarten, a 2nd-round pick, but that was an historic draft class at tackle last year. Said it on the program many times leading up to this draft. Record number of tackles taken in the first 2 rounds. So there's not going to be a Roger Rosengarten sitting there at the end of round 2, not a player of his quality this coming draft. So you're either looking at, even end of the first round left guy playing left tackle or right tackle. That is a big ask. You're probably going to have to spend money on free agency, or you're going to be taking chances at tackle. And Rosengarten can play both sides. He was a left tackle at Washington, switched to right tackle because Michael Penix, their quarterback, was left-handed. They wanted Rosengarten on the blind side, but the Ronnie Stanley, situation is fascinating. And then Derry with a good point here. McCary is a small guard next to Linderbaum, and Faalele is huge but underdeveloped, which I think hurts Linderbaum. What do you think? I think Linderbaum benefits from size next to him. I really do. An undersized center is fine, but I think that it will help him. You're talking about the combo blocks, the double team, the duos that they run, and everything else that they run. If they have some strength next to their guy at center, and I think that that's part of the reason they like Faalele in there. Ben Cleveland, of course, played really well. Was one of the top-rated guards the last 2 weeks of last season when Kevin Zeitler was out. But yeah, I would like to see a powerful guard tandem next to Linderbaum for sure. The only thing I ask of my left tackle is I want my left tackle to have enough mobility to pull. I think that's important for these power schemes to have a left guard who can go all the way over to that edge rusher where Thibodeaux is on the screen right now and kick him out and give your running back a lane. So I do like mobility for my left guard, but overall I think both guys need to have play strength, which will help Linderbaum and also Rosengarten, who's not the strongest player either. So, you want to run combo blocks with undersized guys. It helps to be able to pass them off to a stronger guy with decent feet. So, yeah, and it's sad. There's no way the plan was to replace Zeitler with Faalele. I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, it just seemed like the natural progression that Ben Cleveland was going to start at right guard. He played right guard down the stretch, graded very highly. He even had enough reps in him last year as a backup to put together a highlight tape, impressive highlight tape from Ben Cleveland. It just seemed like the natural succession plan, especially since Ben Cleveland is a free agent after this season. So it's like, all right, Ben Cleveland's been sitting for 3 years. We'll play him this year. We'll let him graduate. We'll get a nice comp pick for him. We'll let him, be the guy who replaces Zeitler. But, by the same token, Banks, like they know who Ben Cleveland was. If they had a problem with his practice habits or work habits or whatever it is that's keeping him off the field, they already knew it. He's already been in the building for 3 years. So, I mean, were they expecting a magic turnaround from Ben Cleveland to where he's going to be, on Harbaugh's good side or start practicing harder in the fourth year? I don't think that would have been wise. And, Faalele just seemed like an experiment that stuck. And, of course, when the late, great Joe D passed away, who knows how that affected things too, Banks. And that's something that I refuse to speculate about on the channel out of respect for Joe D. But I do think that Joe D's passing has something to do with the makeup of this line, one way or the other. I'll let you guys think about that on your own and come up with your own theories there. But just definitely a tough loss in the Ravens family with Joe D. Glad to see they had the cleats to salute them. So we talked a lot about the offense. Let's kick it over to this Ravens defense, a group that has steadily improved over the last few weeks. Now, I think some of that has to do with schedule. Let's think back on this schedule. Okay, early in the season, Mahomes. Okay, the Kansas City offense is underachieved, but you had Josh Allen, Joe Burrow twice. The Bucs with Baker Mayfield have a really good offense. The Ravens faced some great offenses through the first 8-9 weeks, and then the last few weeks, you've seen teams like Pittsburgh, whose offense has gotten better, but still not one of the better offenses. The LA Chargers, very limited offense. So this defense wasn't tested, Denver Broncos, until last week's Philadelphia Eagles game, and they really came to play. The defense was the star of that game for the Ravens. So I'm really, really, really happy with the progress that this defense has made. And I said this when I was on with the Purple Rain podcast, where our buddy Simply and Sutton Def. I think that Dean Pees' his influence has helped this team, if I had to guess, because I'm seeing more and more Dean Pease influence, the safe football, not as aggressive, making sure you don't give up the big plays. That's the kind of football philosophy I'm seeing. And when Sutton brought it up to me on the show, I had to be honest with him. Dean Pease was probably my least favorite coordinator that we've had over the years. Think about the 2 14-point blown leads against New England in the playoffs, late comebacks against Dean Pease led team. Definitely in a different mold than the Chuck Paganos and the Rex Ryans and the ultra aggressive Wink Martindale, ultra aggressive defensive coordinators that we've had. But I think Dean Pease and his veteran leadership, Zach Orr seemed extremely aggressive, making a ton of changes across this defense. And I think Dean Pease effect has helped this team. And again, I'm saying this as someone who's not the biggest Dean Pease fan. So I want to throw that out there. Don C, what is up? DON to the C. One of my favorite film guys, nicest guy on YouTube. Merry Christmas, my friend. Merry Christmas to you, Don. I know you got a family there you're taking care of. Surprised you're not working or out on the road, man. So it's great to hear from you. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everybody out there. And happy New Year coming up. Hopefully the Ravens can do us a solid and get on a run here. I'm kind of optimistic on this Ravens team. I'm kind of bullishly optimistic, I think, compared to other YouTubers, compared to my friends, casual Ravens fans. And here's why. I think that this Ravens team, we looked at that Giants injury report. The Ravens, the opposite. Look at this defense. This is who you started the year with. Now, of course, Marcus Williams benched, Eddie Jackson benched, but everybody's healthy. And, Nate Wiggins, I think, has grown a lot over this year to where they were trusting him, on A.J. Brown last week. Tre'Davious White has been filtered in with Brandon Stevens. We've seen the linebackers. They've been toying with Chris Board. Christian Welch was even in there. Again, a lot of adjustments on defense. Ardarius has been a huge upgrade at strong safety. So I'm encouraged by the way that this defense has been going. Chris Board, again, at linebacker. Malik has played some inside linebacker. The most encouraging part of this defense for you is what? So I'm going to let you know what mine is. It's that we have survived the Michael Pierce injury, and we have survived the Travis Jones bad ankle. His left ankle just kept getting beat up and beat up. We would get a few good snaps from Travis. That thing would get turned. You could see him start favoring it, and then he was just trying to survive the rest of the game, being effective, of course, but not the same destructive Travis that we saw early in the season. It really took the starch out of him. Now, with 2 weeks to heal, Travis should be as close to 100% as he's been since before the ankle injury. Michael Pierce on the inside again, providing giant push. And I think what that'll allow to do, guys, is Madubuike has been very effective as an edge rusher. So if you have more help on the inside, where you have a healthy Travis Jones pushing the pocket, or a Michael Pierce demanding a double team, maybe Tavius Robinson has done a pretty good job sub rushing inside. You can move Madubuike to the edge for a handful of snaps a game, and I mean he's been really, really effective when I've seen him in that role. If he doesn't get to the quarterback, when he doesn't get to the quarterback, which of course, most of the time you're not going to get to the quarterback. If you get there once a game and sack the quarterback, you're a Pro Bowler with 17 sacks. But Madubuike is destructive, very disruptive out there on the edge. So I'm excited about having Michael Pierce back to pair with Madubuike, to pair with Travis Jones. That number one Ravens rush defense is going to be back in effect. Let's look at this Giants scoring, this Giants offense here. Scoring, they are last at 14.9 points a game. Yes, not even 15 points a game. You see, total yards 26, pass yards 28th, pass yards per attempt. They're only averaging 5.8 yards per attempt. That's last. Rush yards a game, middle of the pack. Yards per carry, pretty good. And they are last in red zone offense. So this offense is on the struggle bus. Their rookie running back, Tyrone Tracy Jr., someone that I liked enough to put him on the draft board. I had him and Rasheen Ali right next to each other. I like Tracy a little bit better. but the same caliber of player, and they do a lot of the same things well in college. Both of them excellent pass protectors. Both of them not the most explosive guy, but there is some elusiveness to them. Long speed, okay. Tyrone Tracy is a good 3-down back, all around back. He will get his catches out of the backfield. He'll protect, as I say, and he's not going to leave any guy break many ankles, but he does twist, turn, and kind of manipulate his way for extra yards. Good contact balance, but again, his problem is the guys in front of them, the mass unit that they have, and we're not even sure how many of these 5 guys from the offensive line of the Giants are going to be starting with all the injuries they have. But Tyrone Tracy, a guy to watch, I think a pretty good running back, has taken over for Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary is still on the team, but he is their backup now for the Giants. You'll see him get a handful of carries a game. O'Derry, one of the question in there, who gets the most pressure out the middle out of Jones, Matabike, or Pierce? I think you have them in the right order. It just depends on who's being double teamed and who's being single teamed. So if you Jones will push you right back into the quarterback. Matabike has a lot more quickness, is a better finisher than Jones for sure. You don't get 13 sacks by accident, but Jones gets in the backfield in a hurry just because he's just so strong and impossible really to block with one person. Loved him. I'm so glad that he's back there. Appreciate the question, O'Derry. Banks saying he noticed that most of the Eagles' big runs came when Brent Urban was in. That's true. Brent Urban has played okay. I think Broderick started the year down and has really picked up his play. Broderick Washington's positive snaps have really picked up the last, I want to say over a month, maybe 6 games, like the second half of games that we've already played. But yeah, there's just such a difference between, with no offense to Brent Urban, he is more of a defensive end. He is not a nose tackle. Brent Urban is 6'8", 6'9", something like that. He doesn't have the low center of gravity it takes to really anchor versus 2 guys and take on double teams like that. I mean, Urban's technically sound, but it's just a different body type than his best friend on the team, Michael Pierce. We're really going to benefit from having him. Malik Nabers, excellent pick, the 6th overall pick out of LSU. He already has 80 catches on the year, over 800 yards and 3 touchdowns. That yards per catch would be higher if he had decent quarterback play throwing him the ball. But Malik Nabers, excellent player, excellent prospect. Already a little disgruntled, though. I thought it was, he said a couple of things that made Twitter and saw the news, made kind of the sports highlights. And I'm like, well, that's just, first round wide receiver frustrated. But, it's your rookie year. It just, it's a bad team. You know what you were going on. Just like the little bit of patience is what I would ask for Malik Nabers. Again, you know where you were drafted. You knew Daniel Jones was your quarterback. You knew this wasn't a contending team. So, yeah, to see him kind of like have his down moments of, I don't know, sulking is kind of a strong word, but to see Malik Nabers that down and not say the politically correct thing all the time, I'd be a little disappointed if I was a Giants fan. I understand where Malik Nabers is coming from, but man, you only been on the team for 13 games. Let's try to keep it cool. The other Giants receivers, Wan'Dale Robinson in the slot. Interesting player, yak player, a ton of short stuff from Wan'Dale Robinson. He's got to make you miss. You might see him like fly up on fantasy teams every once in a while. But Wan'Dale Robinson's one of those guys where 3 catches, 35 yards, 4 catches, 40 yards. Not a lot of downfield. Again, he's your screen guy, your jet sweep guy. That's pretty much his game. Darius Slayton, Ravens fans, have talked about Darius Slayton a bunch of times over the years as a potential trade target. They will move Nabers around, but Slayton, when I've seen them, has been their primary X receiver, lined up on the line. And of course, if you're the Giants and you see Brandon Stevens over there, Tre'Davious White, you may want to test him too. Take a couple of deep shots to Slayton. He is a deep ball threat. You see him make plays downfield, and if we're not turning our head, that's a possible, area for the Giants to exploit. And let's face it, guys, You're talking about the number one rush defense, or number one, number two all year long in the Baltimore Ravens. The Giants 2-11. Tommy DeVito thought that he might not start again until Drew Lock got hurt this past Sunday. I would expect the young man to take some chances. Now, DeVito has started one game this year. They lost 30-7 to the Tampa Bay Bucks. DeVito started 6 games last year. He was undrafted out of, I believe he played for Illinois and Syracuse. Of course, haven't been scouting the quarterbacks that hard with Lamar Jackson as our quarterback. He is 3-4 for his career. Now, get this. In 7 starts for Tommy DeVito, he's been sacked 41 times. 41 sacks in 7 games. I mean, if your team has a 6 sack game, that's one of your best games of the year as a team, pass rushing. That's what Tommy DeVito has averaged through his 7 starts. Again, 41 sacks taken in 7 starts. So DeVito is going to hold the ball, and he's going to look to make plays down the field, I would suspect, and let it fly because, again, what does he have to lose? This may be his – these last few games may be his only shot he ever gets to play and start in the NFL. And, he was the 3rd quarterback on a bad Giants team. So he might not get a chance to start an NFL game again, to be a backup somewhere else. He might not be invited back. This might be his last chance in the NFL, period. So I would expect him to take a couple of deep shots to Slayton, to heavily rely on Neighbors, and just use Bellinger and Robinson to keep the defense honest. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. 41 sacks taken in 7 games. DeVito, though, 8 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in those games. So it's kind of impressive that he's only thrown 3 picks, over 7 games for someone who was undrafted and, of course, hasn't played a lot. Would love to see Owe get some sacks this week. Would love to see Van Noy get back on the board. What I would really like to see, O'Dary, is Adisa Isaac, Tavius Robinson getting a lot of work on this defense. Again, we talked about it, the depth. And on defense, they will play a ton of guys. I don't think that anybody benefited more on defense, aside from Travis Jones, than Kyle Hamilton. Kyle, how many scares have we had with him this year? The one with the ankle was just, oh man, I thought something was tore in his knee. It was end up being his ankle was sore. He's hobbling out on the field. Got knocked out of the game with a neck and head injury. So yeah, I want to see these guys rested. I want to see depth come in. I want to see Trey White come in. I want to see Adisa Isaac. I want to see Tavius Robinson impact this game. Chris Board, the guys up front, of course. Jalen Armour-Davis has actually played well when he's been in there. Again, he's played a decent amount of snaps. I don't know how many, but he has made my notes in multiple games this year. And again, the less you hear of me, I forget Armour-Davis is on the team. Well, that's a good thing. Sanusi Kane did not practice today. He was the only Ravens player did not practice. Bo Braid will probably be active as for special teams. It would be nice to get him some snaps in there. Because again, if the Ravens get up by 20 points, that's like being up 30 points on another team. As you see, the Giants don't even average 15 points a game. So I'm looking for them to put the pedal to the metal early, no penalties, keep some guys fresh on defense with the Steelers coming up 6 days from Sunday. Last thing I want to get your opinion in, whether you're watching now or if you're watching the replay, is your opinion on Trenton Simpson. I feel like overall I'm higher on Trent than the Ravens are. I think that he's played fine. I think that he has underachieved a little bit when it comes to pass protection. I think his run defense has been good. If you want to take him out on 3rd downs and have a dime back like Stevens or Chris Board on 3rd downs, that's fine. But I was surprised to see, Chris Board, Malik, and they were almost rotating Board and Trenton Simpson series to series during that Eagles game. And I was a little bit surprised to see that. So how do you feel about Trent? You a little disappointed? Did you think he'd be better, play better than he has this year? Or do you think he's right where he's supposed to be? Would you like to see them keep experimenting with his spot? Or do you want to see Simpson ride? How would you like to play that? Interested to see if anybody has a strong opinion on that. O'Dary with the question. What happened with Ojabo, Jason? I need input. Look, he doesn't look the same. It's one of those situations in which I'm just going to have to come out and say that I was wrong. I expected more. The injuries look like they have zapped him of his quickness. There's not a lot to his bull rush, so he needs to be able to string moves together. He needs to be able to threaten the edge, and he just doesn't look like the same player. And I'm afraid he may not get back to it. It's a shame because, even with the injury that he had in college that made him slip down the draft board, he comes out his first game strip sack of Joe Burrow. I think in his first 3 games he had 3 strip sacks. Then he gets hurt again, and here we are. Year 3? Yeah, drafted in 2022, year 3, and he's inactive for Adisa Isaac. So clearly he is last man up in the edge room. They're hanging on to him. That's why I didn't even mention him. That's why I mentioned Isaac and Tavius Robinson getting in the game and making an impact. Just kind of sad because when I scouted him, and I wasn't alone. It was consensus that was a guy that was going to go in the first round. Probably the middle of the first round in that draft. I would have guessed, somewhere between 14 and pick 18. Jabo was a first round pick in that 2022 draft. And he's gone from, last year in the preseason, people started to notice a lack of explosiveness. And I was thinking, well, he's probably just, taking it easy, feeling himself, getting himself into shape, feeling out the pass rush, getting it revved up. And, he had a strip sack early last year too, but has been unable to stay on the field and gain the coach's trust. He's lost his spot to Tavius Robinson. Most of my notes on David Ojabo and most of his playing time came early in the year, and it's just slowly faded to where he's been active a bunch of games. And, it's Tavius is the third edge rusher behind Owe and Kyle Van Noy, and Adisa Isaac looks to be next up. Of course, Malik plays on the edge in those run downs. So he's the strong side, Sam, in the base defense. But yeah, pass rushing situations, Ojabo buried on the depth chart. And Banks Law, thanks for getting back to me on this. I agree on Trenton, but I'm high on Board, so it's not a knock on Simpson. Chris Board's played in this league a long time, and I do like his awareness in zone defense. I think he's, if I had to pick one Board, I would say when it comes to closing, tackling, like running back gets a screen pass or a wide receiver screen, Trent blows him away in that area, in my opinion. So if you're talking pass coverage overall, like the rally and tackle, love Trenton Simpson in that area. Run defense, like Trenton Simpson over Board in that area. But if you're talking about playing this discipline zone, not biting on play action, getting plenty of depth on your drop, and having a feel for everything going on around you, Chris Board and his experience in that situation definitely pays off. So, guys, here we are an hour into the show. Final thoughts. Get it going early. Get that crowd out of the game. Again, this is what the crowd looked like, as you can see, first drive, 13 minutes into the game, 13 minutes left in the first quarter. Nobody's in that seat. Get it going. Bring your own energy. Get out of there healthy. Get out of there feeling good about your team. Talent should take over. Just get out healthy, dominate, play Ravens football, penalty free, and get ready for this game against the Steelers. Luckily, the Steelers game, not going to need a ton of prep. We just played them a few weeks ago, but the Steelers have a tough schedule coming down the stretch. Their win against Cleveland last Sunday helped their hopes to the division a lot because now they still stand 2 games over the Ravens, and they have the tiebreakers as of now. So the only way the Ravens can win this division is if, number one, they pick up 3 games on the Steelers in the last 4 weeks. That seems tough. Or if one of the Steelers' losses comes to the Cincinnati Bengals the last week of the season. So if the Ravens take care of business, beat the Steelers, and the Steelers lose to the Bengals, Ravens win out, the Ravens would be the division champions. But those Steelers, they have the Eagles this week, then the Ravens, then the Kansas City Chiefs, then the Bengals, a tough 4-game stretch for Pittsburgh. So let's keep hope alive. I mean, we don't have to. You're a player. You're not worried about Pittsburgh. You just want to worry about yourself. Worry to get your team together. Coach Harbaugh really needs to get this team rallied. Lamar staying on his guys, but it's there for us. And you know what? If we have to go wild card and take that route, we're going to be okay there too, because our best football is there to be had right in front of us. We're relatively healthy as of right now. We're in great shape health wise. We've seen the flashes of brilliance, scoring on 5 consecutive drives, 6 consecutive drives, coming back. We've seen the team resilience coming back from 10-point leads, 14-point deficits, coming back and winning games. What we haven't seen, we've seen the defense getting better. What we haven't seen is to put it all together for 60 minutes, week after week. And it's still right there. It's still possible. So I would say, to everybody watching out there, if you're down on the team, I understand. But film-wise and, just overall mood-wise, like a hot goalie in a hockey team or a soccer team, like a pitching staff that gets hot, you just need to get hot. And as Ravens fans, after 2012, we should know that as well as anybody. Let's get hot, play our best football, and see where it takes us, man. Like, we saw Philadelphia. They're one of the best teams in the league. Detroit, Buffalo, and I think you have to, by default, have to put the 2-time defending champion team that has only lost 1 game this year, Kansas City, among that group. Okay, those are your 4 best teams. We smashed Buffalo. We played terribly against Philly. That game was still relatively close, especially with the missed kicks. We can beat anybody in this league, especially when Lamar Jackson's your quarterback. You can beat anybody in this league. So it's time for the Ravens to let go of everything, to get refocused. And I want to see dominance this Sunday against the New York Giants, nothing less. With that, I want to say thank you to our football family. Love my football family. Next week, we will be back to preview that Steelers game, 9:15 Wednesday. Week after that, we're going to play around because the Ravens play on Christmas. So we're going to have to see about the preview show, for the Houston Texans on Christmas. But we will see you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you to Banks, O'Dary, Stacy, everybody that commented. Don C., thank you for the $5 super chat. Really appreciate that, my friend. Love you. Appreciate you. And with that, good night, guys.